So Sophie says, this is very useful and indeed motivational. I've just had back surgery and see the process as mind-body reset, but also very scary at the same time. Questions arise such as, will I succeed? Will I be able to break from over-awareness status? Will I be able to move without fear of pain? I think that, the fact that Sophie, that you're noticing these is the first excellent step, in that it shows that you sort of have this detachment of what's going on. It's like, oh, I see these patterns coming up. There are a couple of levels of this. One is the wording you use, will I succeed? And I feel almost like can you explain that if you feel comfortable, Sophie?
Okay, sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, will I succeed? Will I come out of this like a new person? I know it's a very heavy process. I feel that, I've been in a lot of pain for the past 2-3 years, and finally took that decision to have remove my herniated disc, and I don't have the pain anymore, which feels nearly surreal. But I really have to take it very slow, which is not my usual approach, and lacking patience. But I'm also very interested in this process that I'm going through, and also being part of this program is for me very interesting, because I'm taking a step back and learning to breathe, meditate, have a more of a self-care routine, which I have not been really paying attention to. Apologies, my English is not perfect. I'm not.
It's beautiful.
Thanks. And will I succeed? I feel that I have a very deep awareness of my pain levels, and what you were explaining just before was very interesting, in that I don't want to be on this top level where I'm always aware of the pain, which is a good thing, but then at the same time being blocked in that status. So I have a bit of a anxiety related to that. And will I succeed? Will this period of my life, which I'm seeing as a very important period of my life, will that actually lead to changes in the way I approach life and everything else? I know these are very grand and abstract questions, and sorry for that, but that's just the way I can put them right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that, and I'm glad that the surgery went well. I'm very glad. And I love how you talked about it as a reset, a mind and body reset, because that I think in many ways, chronic pain is also a reset whenever there are patterns that are occurring that just aren't tenable anymore. And it brings all the things to the forefront, sort of like you described. There's a way that you would have approached this in the past, and you're realizing that that may not be the most supportive thing right now. So there are a couple of things I want to bring up. One thing is that really exploring this idea of mind-body reset, in that you have a period right now where you are teaching your brain what your reality is. You have an opportunity to break away from whatever patterns you had before. And you can do, and we can all do this, but it's often very clear whenever you have like a clear, dramatic, surgery, and there's a recovery period. And in a sense, you're giving yourself space to move slower. You're giving yourself all of this extra compassion, in a sense, because you know that you're supposed to give yourself more space. So in a sense, what I kind of wish many people would do is practice that compassionate space indefinitely. In that, whatever, and that's the trick I can see in your eyes, whatever, so there are two things here. Well, there are many things here. There's first, whatever new reality you're defining right now, you have so much freedom to decide what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And I can tell from how you're describing this, that whenever older patterns are creeping in, it doesn't totally feel comfortable and you're wondering whether to hold on to them. You mentioned sort of the need for more patience, the deepening of your awareness into your body, the idea that maybe in the past you would have had over awareness and that you would have hyper focused on some things. So in a sense, whenever you have this space where you don't have the pain as much, but you still have the patterns that have outlived the pain and they're still running, they become more clear. It's like, okay, this was running in the background whenever I had higher pain, and it's still running in the background, but it no longer matches the reality I'm experiencing right now because I have less pain. So it becomes really clear then, because you have this contrast between what you feel in your body and those, I don't know, they're almost like programs running in the background, cognitive programs. So noticing the mismatch is really important. And this is true in any type of therapy. Whenever you have an experience that doesn't match the thoughts, really focusing on that and saying, no, my experience right now is actually, I feel okay. I actually, even if I have a tendency to want to be impatient and to heal quickly, or I feel like I should be over aware to make sure that things don't get worse, that actually doesn't match my experience. And focusing on your current experience taking priority. This is reality. How I feel in my body right now is the reality. And it's not those thoughts, that ticker tape of thoughts in the background. And that's a big ask because, depending on the person, that ticker tape of thoughts can be really strong. But also there's something that you're mentioning here where it seems as if there are some lessons that you feel like it's time to learn. Patience and compassion come up to mind because you've used those words. But one thing I might explore, I encourage you to explore, is what types of things do you have an opportunity to learn right now that you haven't had the opportunity to learn before? And then focusing on those a little bit each day. What can you learn from this? In a sense, and I can restate that in a lot of ways. For instance, it could be, how do you want to reshape your brain from this? But really it's about learning. What do you want to learn from this? What patterns do you want to change? And that's something that only you can really define. And then, so it's first paying attention to the patterns you want more of and which patterns are no longer matching your experience. So keeping track of both of those, and that you put more attention on the patterns that you want more of. And whenever you notice the patterns that are no longer serving, you notice the mismatch between those patterns and your internal state. No, I feel fine right now. I don't feel like I need to be over attending right now. You use your internal state to reduce the strength of those thoughts. And the more you do that, the more you see the differences between those patterns that have been running on automatic and how they differ from your reality right now, the less strong they become over time. And that's how all it's called, it's extinguishing a memory, but it's just noticing that is no longer true now. And you can even say that out loud. That's no longer true now. I no longer need to be aware constantly of my pain anymore. And sometimes even by stating it out loud, it just helps the thinking brain link with your body's experience. So I hope that's been helpful. I know I've answered generally to some general questions, but that's really exciting. And I feel like there's a lot of freedom like I'm really excited about the whatever you're learning, the new patterns that you're learning, because resets are so, whenever you break from some pattern that used to, I don't know, that used to rule your life, and you have a space where you can define something new, that's like, there's so much creativity there. It can sometimes be overwhelming depending on the personality. But in a sense, whatever patterns you create right now are ones that can stick to your future. So what new patterns do you want to create? And a pattern to become a habit just needs to be repeated. I mean, the popular term is, do it for 21 days and it becomes a habit. But in a sense, if you think of the next month, what do you want your new self to be like? Creating those habits over the next month, that is literally reshaping your brain into what you want it to be. Because from the neuroscience perspective, 21 days is the observable habit where it feels like a habit, but your brain is already starting to change its shape, change the connections, the axons, and the neuronal connections within 2 weeks. And if we were to scan your brain in about a month, we'd be able to notice observable, measurable changes in your brain. And all of that, so within a month, you can dramatically reshape your brain. Within 3 to 6 months, you can change entire brain networks. So all of that is within your power. So it seems like in a sense, increasing focus on the patterns that you want to reinforce and that you want to continue, that you want to strengthen, and the patterns that are no longer serving, check them against how real they feel in your body so that they slowly extinguish over time, and notice how they weaken over time. So thank you so much for your question, Sophie.